So, 4 years since I was here last time.
Yep.
How were these 4 years with Trump? How have they been?
Awesome.
Yeah.
I'm gonna vote for him again.
All your mothers and your brothers and your sisters and your fathers and everybody walking this land, no matter your race, your creed, your tribe, whose nation you defend, with open hearts, open minds, lend a helping hand each time to the mothers and the brothers and the sisters and the fathers, everybody walking this land.
Amen!
For millionene av mennesker som krysset Atlanterhavet, så var frihetsgudinna i New York havn selve symbolet på den amerikanske drømmen. Som ikke bare var en drøm, men som også var en avtale om at dersom du jobber hardt nok, så vil du kunne skape et godt liv for deg selv, og et enda bedre liv for barna dine. Men sånn er det dessverre ikke lenger for veldig mange her i USA. Den amerikanske drømmen har krympet, og i dag er den for veldig mange mer på størrelse med denne frihetsgudinna her i Warfield, Kentucky. Sånn. Ja, nå er vi altså i tvillingbyene Duluth og Superior. Duluth er i Minnesota, Superior er i Wisconsin. Dette er en gammel industri- og havneby som ligger inntil Lake Superior, den største av de store sjøene. Der er sjøen her, ja. Se bølgene. Der. Her starter min reise gjennom Amerika. Jeg vil prøve å finne ut hva som skjedde med den amerikanske drømmen. Kall det gjerne en ekspedisjon, eller obduksjon om du vil. Fy faen, det er bratt! Her ligger verdens største ferskvannshavn. Og herfra ble det en gang skippet ut enorme mengder jernmalm fra gruvene nord for byen. Og den byen her har fostret 3 kjendiser. 1, Bob Dylan. 2, Gina Lee Nolin, hun eneste i Baywatch med små pupper. Og 3, en som kanskje ikke har gjort det så bra som låtskriver som Bob Dylan, men som etter hvert begynner å få faktisk større bryster enn Gina Lee Nolin, nemlig meg. Her bodde jeg nemlig som barn, sammen med storebroren min og foreldrene mine. Moren min jobbet i helsevesenet her, faren min jobbet på det lokale universitetet og på lokale Air Force-basen. Altså, det er jo ganske kule en del av de små husene her. Det er litt sånn små viktorianske hus, mens noen av dem er jo egentlig bare brakker. Se her. Det er gamle huset vårt. Fy fader, det er lite, ass, i forhold til det. Jeg husker jo at det var et svært palass, nærmest, da jeg var liten. Lurer på hvordan det ser ut der inne nå.
America at the turn of the century. Men, women and children streaming to her shores from countries around the world.
Min oldefar Carl var fremdeles en ung mann da han forlot tilværelsen som landarbeider i nærheten av landsbyen Bad Seltzer i Tyskland. Da han og kona Wilhelmina gikk av skipet ved Frihetsgudinnens føtter, ble de spurt om hvor de kom fra, og svaret ble oppført som deres nye etternavn, noe som var vanlig blant datidens immigranter. Og derfor heter jeg Seltzer. Dette er storebroren min Per Michael. Her sitter jeg sammen med søskenbarna mine Kim, Kelly, Craig og Chris. Og på sykkelen sitter bestekompisen min Joey. Som liten elsket jeg Amerika. Det var selve framtidslandet, et sted der alt var hypermoderne og dritkult, med åpne landskap og endeløs himmel. Et land med et folk som var uredde optimister med store drømmer. Jeg elsker fremdeles Amerika, men noe har skjedd. Jeg så huset vårt til salgs for $60,000, og da slo tanken meg, eller spørsmålet, hvordan kunne et hus som lå i det som en gang var et av verdens desidert rikeste områder, altså dette industrielle beltet herfra ned til Detroit, hvordan kunne det ende opp med å koste noen skarve 100,000 kroner? Da skjønte jeg at det Amerika som jeg kjente her for 40 år siden, det har blitt ganske annerledes. Men hva har skjedd med mitt gamle hjemland? Her det en bedamp fra kumlokka, da vi i gang. All den jernmalmen som ble skippet ut fra havna i Superior Duluth, havnet her i Detroit. Her ble arbeidere fra hele verden samlet for å smelte malmen og skru det sammen til selve symbolet på den amerikanske drømmen, nemlig bilen. Detroit var en gang faktisk ikke bare en av USAs rikeste byer, men en av verdens rikeste byer. Også kulturelt var Detroit en av verdens rikeste byer. For en musikkelsker som meg det umulig å lage en fet spilleliste uten soul, pop, rock, punk, techno eller hiphop fra denne byen. Og apropos soul, så kan man kanskje si at Detroit lenge var selve sjela til det moderne Amerika.
This is it. This is the center. Okay, you know what's great?
Right.
Like right there, that's like the newspapers. And people in that parking garage are newspaper people.
Yeah.
So I love to see them seeing this. Like, what the fuck's he doing now?
Yeah.
Because when I'm fixing the foundation of this building, as my ass is right there, then I can go like this. Fuck you, motherfucker. Kiss it. Kiss it. Because maybe I think it should be a law that every 5 years the media actually has to go get a job.
Yeah. Re-education.
Yeah, if you put it that way, it doesn't sound so good.
LeDuff 10. generasjons Detroiter og Pulitzer-prisvinnende reporter. Han lokal gravejournalisthelt, og den eneste jeg vet om som har jobbet i både liberale New York Times og konservative Fox News.
Oh, I love it. We invented this in Detroit too.
No, you didn't. That's Scandinavian.
My man! Cheers. Welcome to town.
Thank you. Nå har han tatt pause fra journalistikken for å jobbe som vaktmester midt i Detroit.
This was a really important place in the American dream.
This was the third largest city and the richest city. Now it's the poorest.
Why?
We went down first. What happens to the country? If we're going to come back first, what's going to happen to the country? It's an interesting place to be. People say, well, what happened to Detroit? First of all, we invented the machine that destroys a city. A car.
Right.
Right from the get-go. And really, the mortgage meltdown really drove the nail into Detroit. It really collapsed.
What is known as the financial crisis of 2008?
Yes, and now our biggest employer is the biggest mortgage company in the country. It's real simple. Detroit, why did the car industry start here? Because all the iron ore in the world comes from the Great Lakes. Naturally, it would start here. From a carriage drawn by a horse, you would put a motor on it, and it's simple. In 1945, the war's over. Detroit really filled up during the war to make the ordnance and the airplanes and the tanks. It was all made here. And then it naturally went into a recession. and then it popped back up, right? It's a cycle, the auto cycle. In 1950, that's when people started leaving in mass by like maybe 100, 200,000 people in that decade. So at the time of the 57 Chevy, the go-go years, Detroit's emptying out.
Already at that point?
It's emptying out.
That early?
Yes.
Wow.
This thing allows you to move out. You go out to you create the suburbs, right? So factories get abandoned. Tax base goes down, right? It becomes poorer and racial stress starts bubbling. So in 1967, sparked by a black guy coming home from Vietnam, after hours party, the police raid it, the riots happened. We never recovered.
Opptøyene i 1967 var en perfekt storm av flere utviklingstendenser. Ikke minst at de relativt velstående og hovedsakelige hvite innbyggerne flyttet ut av byen, mens de som ble igjen var svarte amerikanere som hadde flyktet fra nådeløs diskriminering, utnytting og terror i sørstatene. Men også her i nord møtte de på forskjellsbehandling, mens arbeidsplassene de hadde flyttet til forsvant. Utover på 60-tallet økte spenningene, og til slutt eksploderte altså Detroit i rasende sammenstøt mellom svarte bilarbeidere og militære. Mens bilindustrien på sin side møtte på enorme utfordringer.
Then come the oil shocks of the 70s. We're making bad automobiles. We get foreign competition. More leaves, more
Because
jobs.
American automobiles in the 70s were really bad.
Garbage. The management of the auto companies was terrible. The union took too much. Everybody stole.
And it was planned redundancy. They were making cars that were meant to last only a few years. Just so
Keep it rolling.
just so people would buy a new car in 5 or 8 years.
Every 2 years.
Every 2 years?
2 years.
Was that the goal?
That was what everybody did.
So they were making dangerous cars.
But they were fucking cool. I got a 65 Mustang in my garage.
Yeah.
That thing, the seatbelts are only here.
Yeah.
And the steering column doesn't collapse. So you hit something, you impaled yourself.
Yeah.
And that thing's a rocket.
Yeah.
Awesome. they growled like bears.
Ja, de brummet gromt, disse etter hvert stadig mer ræva bilene som ble laget i Detroit utover 60- og 70-tallet. Dette kortsiktige profittjaget fra ledelsen førte til skjerpede krav fra fagforeningen, og sammen med økt konkurranse fra europeiske og asiatiske bilprodusenter og utskipping av jobber, skulle dette bli en dødelig cocktail for det som en gang var Amerikas pumpende industrihjerte.
But there's some nice stores and some nice stuff going on here.
There's nothing open. There's it's lunchtime and there's one person in the restaurant. There's 2 people in that restaurant. Believe me, this is much better than it was. It looks cool and there's stuff to do. I'm not going to put that down. But tell me, when so much of the public's money's invested in it, how the city recuperates. We went bankrupt, brother. We weren't able to afford...
The city of Detroit.
Bankrupt. The biggest bankruptcy for a city in American history. We couldn't afford ambulances, police, fire trucks, school buses. But look, I mean... Look at that. We're heading to the east side. We're now going east. Every lot you see here was crowded with houses. Every inch of this was covered with people. 2 million people. We probably have 500,000 people. We're the only American city ever to have reached 1 million people in population and shrunk. Here's the house where the serial killer killed women,
Which one?
raped them, right?
Which house?
And then murdered them. This house coming up right here. And this pisses me off because the house, is owned by the city. I don't know about you, man, but if I'm living next to an abandoned home owned by my city where women were being tortured and killed, I would tear it down. And yet here it is, like it's some kind of tourist attraction. They're doing graffiti on it, and school kids come by. There's a bus stop right here. Got any idea when they're gonna tear this serial killer house down? That's where dude was killing the women, right?
Yeah.
When are they gonna tear it down?
They're going to tear it down soon.
Soon?
They're going to tear it down as soon as possible. I know who you are.
Hey, brother, how are you?
I know exactly who you are. I see you on TV all
It's
the
a
time.
pleasure. I think this is ultimate disrespect to you. Take
And
this
this
shit
whole
down.
neighborhood. I agree with what you're saying. That is a terror. That is a terror spot right there. We need to hurry up and take that down.
Out of respect for people.
Yes.
School kids go by that.
Exactly. I know the lady personally that died in there. I'm from this neighborhood.
Hey, you think the city gotten, you're part of the city here, right? You think it's gotten better?
So
No, it's getting worse. The
Probably
only
we
thing getting better in
doing
Detroit is
anything.
downtown. That's the only thing coming back in Detroit, downtown.
Who you gonna vote for president?
It don't make no difference because they're going
Who's
to give
gonna
us what they
vote for
want us to
president?
have anyway.
it ain't gonna be Trump.
I know, but that's easy. So who's the other one you like on the Democrats?
Anybody but Trump.
I like Biden.
Where you got the apron? It's McDonald's?
Yeah, yeah.
You going to work?
I'm on the way to work now.
How much you make?
How much you make?
Minimum wage. It just
How
went
much
up.
is that?
I don't know. I just work.
You don't know how much?
I like to work.
It's $7.25 an hour.
No, it ain't. It's 9 something.
Okay.
You can't trick me like that.
Here's the
Hold on,
bus.
There's the bus. Is it on time? Is it on time?
All right.
Seems like yesterday, but it was long ago.
Og mens Anybody But Trump-gutta tar bussen til McDonald's-jobben, så stikker jeg på en såkalt diner. For man kan jo ikke lage norsk TV om amerikanske forhold uten å intervjue minst en middelaldrende mann med caps på nettopp en diner. Og her i utkanten av Detroit møter vi Brian, som selv mener han personlig bidro til å tippe vektskåla i Trumps favør i 2016-valget.
Did you go on the Facebook page at all, Thomas?
So this is,
Can you see it?
yeah, it's you and Trump.
Yeah, me and Trump.
Are you a Trump fan?
Yeah. What tipped you off? I met Donald Trump in September of 2016, and I told him that I was from Macomb County, the home of the Reagan Democrats, and I invited him here. I said, Mr. Trump, if you come to Macomb County and ask for the support of the Reagan Democrats, and you get it, you might win Macomb County big enough to win the whole state of Michigan. And if
Which was an important state.
Exactly. It was one of the most critical states. So I said, if you win Michigan, you know, we both know what that means. You win the White House.
Begrepet Reagan Democrats beskriver hvite arbeiderklassevelgere som tradisjonelt hadde stemt på demokratene, men som presidentkandidat Ronald Reagan klarte å overtale til å stemme republikansk i 1980. Noe av det samme skjedde i 2016.
In front of a fired-up Michigan crowd, Donald Trump dealt with the latest twist in this unpredictable race.
Og som Brian var inne på, var Michigan en av 3 klassiske industristater som avgjorde 2016-valget. Og det med kun 10.700 Trump-stemmer.
So it's Trump mania. It was like the Beatle mania, but with Trump.
It was Trump mania. So people love him. I work at Ford Motor Company, and the guys that I work with at Ford love Donald Trump. He's done a lot for the auto industry. He's been fighting for us since before he even took office. And we really appreciate it. The guys I work with just love the guy.
Have you ever voted Democrat?
You know, I wouldn't rule out voting for a Democrat if they had a conservative views, but since about 1970, the Democrats have been extremely liberal as far as I'm concerned, and blue-collar guys, family, people like myself with family values, the Democrat Party kind of left us. The Democrats nowadays in the United States represent basically the ultra-rich, people that have so much money, it doesn't matter how much they pay in taxes, and then the extremely poor who want to live off of government programs and government subsidies. So the people in the middle, like myself, are stuck. You know, we work for a living, and every penny counts, and I have to pay pretty high taxes because of, the taxation that the Democrats and a lot of the Republicans.
So it's a struggle for all the people in the between, and
exactly.
the Democrats are supposed to.
And we're the Trump supporters. We're the people that are now supporting Trump. The people that work at the auto companies, different types of manufacturing jobs, and farmers and miners, and the people who, blue collar workers. We're the people who elected Trump, and we're the people who are going to re-elect Trump this year.
When Trump says make America great again, what is he referring to?
Well, the jobs that people could get and support a family on, a lot of those jobs left and went to Mexico and China over the last couple of decades. And so what Trump is doing, he's fighting to bring jobs back into this country, put America first, is forcing China and Mexico to play by fair rules.
Is it hard to get by for regular people in America from day to day? Is it a struggle?
You have to be able to count on your health being good and getting them going to work every day, and maybe working 50 to 60 hours a week to raise your family and provide for your family. But it's a good living, and so I think the American dream is still alive and well in America. But things are changing, and people have to be willing to adapt.
So right across the river here is Windsor, Canada, which is also a car town. What's the difference between Detroit and Windsor?
When I look at Windsor, I see the American dream.
In Canada? How so?
Because it's nice and it functions and they care about each other. It's still it's a blue-collar town, but they take care of each other. They share a little bit. Us.
Den amerikanske drømmen tilhører åpenbart fortida her i det gamle rustne jern- og metall-Amerika. Så, hva nå? En etterhvert ganske så narkoman poet sa en gang at
I believe the children are our future. Teach them well and let them lead the way.
Men hadde Whitney Houston rett i det? Det vil jeg ha svaret på. Det svaret vil jeg ha fra en ordentlig voksen. Gjerne en som professor, aller helst her ved Harvard. Robert Putnam en av verdens mest anerkjente eksperter på sosial og økonomisk ulikhet. Han har mottatt priser, rådgitt presidenter og skrevet flere bestselgende bøker. In 2015, you published a book called Our Kids, and the subtitle was The American Dream in Crisis. Right. How is the American Dream in crisis?
Well, first of all, what's the American dream? The American dream was historically that everybody had a fair chance, depending upon their own skills and their own, God-given talents and their own hard work, everybody could get ahead. And America's dream was not that everybody ended up perfectly equal, but the starting line was the same for everybody. People from the wrong side of the tracks had a decent chance, if they worked hard and they had skills, of ending up on the right side of the tracks. America in the 1940s and 1950s and into the 1960s was a very egalitarian place in which the American dream was not just a rhetorical device, it was real. That it was a place in which if you worked really hard and you had natural talents, you could end up doing reasonably well, and that is no longer true.
Ulikheten i USA har altså økt kraftig siden 80-tallet. Og i dag må du som regel ha høyere utdanning eller velstående foreldre for å bli med på økonomiske oppturer som den etter finanskrisen i 2008. For 4 år siden så dro jeg hit til Texas for å møte kusina mi Kim og finne ut hvordan livet hennes har vært de siste 40 årene. Nå jeg tilbake her for å møte datteren hennes, Tasha. Tasha er 5-barnsmor, og nå skal jeg se da om det å være familie og det å være barn på feil side av jernbanesporet her i Amerika, om det er så ille som Putnam vil ha det til. Eller om det bare er svartmaling fra sånn kystelite-fyr oppe i Harvard-elfenbenstårnet. Må bare finne fra meg først da. 3rd og H, var det ned her da? Her er det noen bord. Hello. Hey, Tasha. Hey, dude. How old is she now?
She just turned 19 months old.
Hi there.
Hi.
Hi, man. Good to see you. It's been a while, huh? Been 4 years. You've changed.
No, Mama's gotta go get you dressed, baby.
You okay for some coffee?
Yeah. Cool. Tasha har i flere år hatt en lederstilling i restaurantbransjen, og ville nok for 20-30 år siden tilhørt middelklassen. Men i dag kjemper hun, i likhet med flertallet av amerikanere, en beinhard hverdagskamp mot å falle ned i bunnløs fattigdom.
I'm trying to stay positive about everything. We're gonna drag out all the books today. Okay. Our rent is $1,000 here. The lights, the water, and then the rent, about $1,500 a month. Just the basic. That's not with food or anything else.
I mean, what do you do for a living? You used to work at a restaurant,
Yeah,
right?
I used to manage the restaurant.
What was it?
Fuddruckers in Corpus. I was there for 3 years.
And then what are you doing now?
I take care of Mom. I'm a provider for her.
You take care of Kim? Mm-hmm. So that's your income now?
Mm-hmm.
Can I ask how much it is?
Right now, because it's just my income, we're looking at about $850 a month, maybe $900 a month. We were better off when Mark had a job, but Mark lost his job, and so now it's dropped that much. So we're hurting.
Yeah?
Yeah. We're making it. I mean, I get child support on that one and this one, so that helps, but it's not much.
You don't have enough money to get by.
Mm-mm. When Mark had a job, we were doing okay. As of right now, my car payment is late this month. It was pay the light bill, pay the car payment, go into the whole kind of thing. Mm. It's rough. You know, then you have the added expense of, diapers and whatever they may need. Be careful, baby.
Are you on food stamps?
Right now, we just got them. We just got approved because Mark lost his job, but normally we don't have it. It's going to be $862 a month, which is pretty decent considering.
Is it hard to have stability when you don't know when the next check is going to come in?
It's very rough. It's horrible. How
does that affect your everyday life?
Oh, that's just a stressor all in its own. Will you go throw this away, baby, so I can do your hair? It's hard.
Are you working now, or are you waiting for work?
Just waiting for this job to pick back up.
What do you do?
Painter sandblaster. The big old tanks, I don't know if y'all saw them driving over the bridge. Big old white tanks. We paint those and sandblast those.
Do you have a contract there?
No.
So you're sort of on you're on a 0-hour contract.
Yeah.
In a sense.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't stress out as much as my wife does, but.
You ever wonder where the next check is gonna come in? Why not?
I just go find something else. It's just a matter of what I get. So if I get a job that's not paying so much, then I'll get another one to compensate.
At the same time?
At the same time, yeah. until something else picks up.
When you were a kid, what did you think you were gonna be doing? What did you hope for? What did you dream for?
I thought I was gonna own like 2 houses, 2-3 cars paid off, and I'm looking back at it like I expected too much.
Yeah.
But I like the life I live now. Very comfortable. My kids are healthy. You know, I can't ask for more.
Mark tjenestegjorde 6 år i militæret før han møtte Tasha. Blant annet var han med på invasjonen av Irak.
So how was it in the service, in the military?
It was good. Had its ups and downs like anything else, but I enjoyed it. You know, the discipline, the camaraderie.
Did you get hurt?
I did one time.
What happened?
I got blown into a wall. I was about 20 feet, 30 feet from an exploding car, and spent almost a year at a hospital in Spain.
Somebody set a bomb off?
Yeah.
In a car? You served your country for 6 years? Don't you feel you should be better off? I mean, money-wise?
You would think, yes. But it's just, I guess, whatever you're gonna make it, what you're gonna make it.
Before you were 15, I mean, what did you want to be? What did you want to do?
I actually used to take a lot of dance classes, so I wanted to go to school for fine arts. I didn't do any of that. I didn't get to do anything that I wanted to do.
Yeah. How do you feel about that?
Honestly, it sucks. It sucks, but at the same time, like, I wouldn't change my kids for the world at all.
How old are you now?
Me, 33.
You're 17 years younger than I am. I mean, you can do whatever you want. You know, when I talked to you a while back, I thought you were trying to get a business degree.
I actually am 4 classes shy of that business degree. I have to pay the $500, and then I can take those classes and then go from there. I'll have associates. Once I take those classes, I'll have an associate's in business.
You'll have an actual college degree.
Yes.
But you need $500.
Yeah.
Really?
Ugh. $500 is my car payment. $500 is half of my rent. You know what I mean? $500 is 2 months worth of a light bill. So it ultimately boils down to the fact, okay, do we have the extra money to pay this month or no? And it always seems to be that the answer is no. The little ones, they don't, they're kind of resilient to everything. The older 2, especially Bubba, he can look at me and he can tell when something's wrong, something's bothering me, and I can tell him, hey, I'm fine. I'm fine, son. No, Mom, what's wrong? What's wrong? And he's more grown up than he should be.
How does being on the wrong side of the tracks in America affect being a kid and growing up and your kid's future?
I'm afraid it's going to affect my kids in the long run. I've tried to teach them the best that I can. But ultimately, I hate to be like that, but I think America has become very corrupt. Money runs everything. If you don't have money, you ain't got shit. Yeah. There's people that are worse off than us, or just barely making it like us. And I think that's most of America. I mean,
so what happened to social mobility in America? What happened to people advancing in life?
Well, what happened is that opportunity in America became bifurcated. There's always been a gap between rich kids and poor kids. But over the last 30 years or so, things have gotten better and better for rich kids. They're more likely, their parents spend more money on them, spend more money on their schools, spend more time reading with them, give them a lot more social support. But at the same time, on the same measures, people from the lower third of American society are investing less and less on their kids. These kids are more likely to have a standard 2-parent family. These kids are much more likely now than they used to be to live in a fractured or fragile family. Not just that there's a gap, but that gap is growing in America. And unless we do something about it, it's going to be fatal for equality of opportunity, because that means there's no longer equality, and there's less and less equality of opportunity than there used to be. We have lots of smart kids down here that really are smart, and we're throwing them on the trash heap as a country we are. And the best
It's wasting brain power.
Yeah, it is, and it's dumb.
Bak dette mulighetsgapet som Putnam snakker om, ligger det en voldsom økning i økonomisk ulikhet de siste 50 åra. Det betyr at reallønna til den gjennomsnittlige amerikaner nesten har stått stille siden 70-tallet, mens levekostnader, som for eksempel skolepenger og medisiner, har økt voldsomt.
It's very bad for our democracy to have that kind of social divide in the country. And of course it's morally wrong. It's just unjust. The poor kids in America, their parents may have screwed up, so we might not have much sympathy morally for their parents, but the kids didn't screw up. They're just kids.
Dette mulighetsgapet gir et dårlig utgangspunkt for min familie i Texas. Selv om drømmene fortsatt lever, i hvert fall hos de yngste. Da jeg traff Bubba for 4 år siden, var han en oppvakt liten gutt. I dag er han en ung mann med store ambisjoner.
How old are you?
I am going to be 16 in like a week.
So you got 2 more years of high school?
Yes, sir.
What are you going to do after that?
I want to go to college. I want to go to MIT.
Really? Mm-hmm. Well, that's pretty ambitious.
Yeah, I've kind of set the bar really high for myself.
Yeah. What are you going to do to go to MIT? What do you need to do?
I'm going to study and keep all my grades up, so hopefully I can get a scholarship to go there, and then I can just apply for other scholarships and financial aid and hopefully be able to go.
Because it costs a lot of money to go there?
Yeah.
You know how much it costs?
No, I don't remember off the top of my head.
Yeah. Wow. You think you'll be able to do it?
Yeah.
Yeah?
I believe I'll be able to do it.
You mentioned earlier you're looking for a job.
Yeah.
That's aside from going to school, right?
Yeah.
So why do you want to go to work?
I want to make money so I can buy stuff for myself and help my mom with some of the bills, so it's easier on her and she's not as stressed.
She worries a lot?
She just kind of gets stressed out, and then sometimes she'll just walk away for a minute and then come back.
I love you.
Do you feel that America is a society based on privilege?
Oh yeah, there's a lot of that, but some areas aren't like that, and some areas are more like that. So it just depends really where you're at.
Do people who don't have that much money, are they ashamed?
I believe they are ashamed, but I wouldn't tell them to be ashamed of themselves, because when you think about it, you're still trying. You're still trying to get to where you want to be. And as long as you're trying to get there, then there's nothing to be ashamed of.
Det er vondt å se familien min som sliter. Og dette har blitt hverdagen for veldig mange i USA. Alt snakket om et økonomisk comeback etter finanskrisa og frem til koronautbruddet var kanskje sant på Wall Street. Men 6 av 10 amerikanere lever i dag et liv konstant på kanten av økonomisk ruin. Det får meg til å tenke. Dette kunne jo vært meg og mine nærmeste dersom vi hadde blitt igjen i Superior. Hvordan har egentlig livet vært der de siste 40 åra?
Her bodde bestekompisen min Joey O'Neill, som var Ojibwa-indianer. Her nede bodde vel John Heenan, som jeg vet er politi i dag. Politimann.
John Heenan, 54 years old, lived here all my life, born and raised here, went to school here. Was a police officer for 28 and a half years, retired last January, got a wife, 2 girls, yeah.
You know what? I remember we were going sledding one day, and I asked you what your favorite song was.
Oh boy. What was it way back when?
Strawberry Fields Forever.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh. It's not anymore.
What is it now?
Probably something by Aerosmith.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So what was it like being a cop here?
Always interesting. Something new every day. When you walked in the door, you didn't know what you were doing that day, which is, to me, was interesting.
Exciting.
Yeah. Well, I could have done a little less without some of the excitement, but it was interesting.
So do you miss patrolling and miss being a policeman?
I miss the people I worked with.
Yeah.
I don't miss the work.
So what happened? This used to be a very wealthy area.
Economy has changed. Lots of industrial jobs have been lost, and like the shipping industry is way down. The railroad industry is way down because of the economy, the global economy. The railroad's running trains without people in them now. So they're moving freight basically by remote control.
Without a crew?
Yeah, there's no crew in them. Like this whole line down here, you'll see some of the tracks that they'll say, and they'll write on the signs that'll say unmanned train.
Really? Well, your dad used to work on the
Yep,
railroad,
he worked
right?
on the railroad. Yep, he was an engineer. He drove the trains.
So those jobs are gone.
Some, not all of them, but some of them are. Yeah. That's the mall. This one was full of retail shops.
Yeah.
And now there's nothing in it. Some businesses, but I don't think there's any retail left.
Siden jeg og familien min flytta til Norge på 70-tallet, har det kommet mange store lovnader fra USAs presidenter. Og retorikken har stort sett vært den samme, uavhengig av partitilhørighet.
For those who've abandoned hope, we'll restore hope and we'll welcome them into a great national crusade to make America great again.
I will keep America moving forward, always forward.
I believe that together we can make America great again. The President of the United States is the President of every single American, of every race and every background.
And that we are surely blessed to be citizens of the greatest nation on earth.
The American dream is dead.
Ja, Trump var nok inne på noe, for den amerikanske drømmen er utvilsomt i ganske dårlig form. Og sånt blir det også ganske dårlig stemning av.
I mean, there's people that I've met around the community that they were friends, but they no longer talk to each other because one happened to support Trump and the other one didn't.
Right.
I lean conservative, but I didn't vote for Trump. Saw that coming. I didn't vote for Hillary either, so.
So how do you see this divide going? I mean,
I don't know. I'm worried about that. There's no middle ground anymore. And so what you're going to see is these big swings back and forth in government.
What's that flag? What is that?
The blue line.
The blue line?
Yep.
What does that mean?
The police are the blue line, and we keep the good away from the bad. So that person supports law enforcement.
Why is that a topic?
Oh, because of the Black Lives Matter movement that is going on and has gone on, and a lot of people think that the cops aren't being supported. And
right. How do you feel about the Black Lives Matter?
I think they serve a purpose. Have all of their causes or fights been valid? No, but I think it keeps people on their toes. Yeah, being a police officer was just a means to an end.
Yeah.
I knew I could retire early,
yeah,
which was big.
Yeah.
I knew I could make decent money doing it. It was never about the power or being a cop or anything like that. I hated carrying a gun all the time. too much responsibility in carrying the gun. But it was an interesting job, and it got me to retire at 54 years old. Now I can do what I want.
It's a good deal.
Yeah.
Se her. Her har ikke jeg vært siden 1970. Altså, jeg har ikke vært her på 44 år. Ikke hvem som bor her, men...
Hey.
Hi.
How's it going?
Hi, Thomas.
Hello, I'm Nikita.
Hi, Nikita.
Marquita.
This is crazy.
Yeah.
This is crazy. It was just so huge.
Oh yeah, I can imagine. Completely
This is crazy. I remember this was, yeah. It hasn't been changed. It hasn't been altered that much.
Not too much.
Can we go upstairs and look?
Yeah, no, you can find.
What's in here now?
That's just another outdoor room, I guess. Kind of a storage.
Yeah, we had.
Some closets.
We also have bunk beds here.
Oh, really? Mm. So I wonder if this was just like a little knockout where there was nothing here, and somebody just added some closet space. Maybe.
Her sitter jeg altså i gamle soverommet til foreldrene mine i Superior, Wisconsin. Det er så veldig spesielt. Det er klart det er veldig litt melankolsk og sterkt å komme tilbake til barndomshjem etter mer enn 40 år. Og jeg tenker på hva som har skjedd i løpet av de 40 årene. Altså, da vi flyttet til Norge på 70-tallet, så var Norge liksom traurig, mens USA var fremdeles altså, ungt og spenstig og kult og effektivt. Men nå er det noe som har skjedd, altså. Akkurat som det har blitt snudd. Altså, USA virkelig gammelt, stagnert og ødelagt på et eller annet vis. Da. Ja, jeg bare tenker på, altså, over halvparten av amerikanere i dag kommer til å få det verre enn foreldrene sine, og det var liksom ikke avtalen da, som ligger i den amerikanske drømmen. Og i neste episode pakker jeg Stars and Stripes-sekken min og drar til hjertet av Trump-land i sørstatenes kullbelte for å se om deres Amerika har blitt great again.
For the nourishment of our bodies, Lord, in Jesus' name we pray, amen.
Eller i hvert fall noenlunde greit. Her, i denne lille bua her i Williamson, West Virginia, ble det i løpet av en 5-årsperiode solgt 10 millioner opioidpiller. Det bor 3000 folk her.
My wife's class reunion, I mean, her class has been devastated. So many people are dead or addicted to drugs.
You can't do a high school reunion because everybody's gone?
I mean, if they're all dead and they're addicted to drugs, I mean, what do you do? My American dream doesn't exist. I don't have an American dream. I dream of a better future for my daughter.
My American dream is to own my own home. Say hi.
For my family to have a better opportunity than I did.
My American dream is to get to where I want to be with my own efforts.
I do dance, and my dream is to do dance.